Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. Today I have just a quick video we're going to be doing, but I actually got sent this on Instagram, so thank you so much. If you send me something, you never know. I may end up doing it. But I appreciate it a lot, especially for a day like today. So I got to get to the gym after. I'm like, weirdly, I've had stage fright over filming today for some reason. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and get into it. Let's do this. I think I'm going to watch the whole thing and then we're going to go through it one more time and I'm going to react to each piece. Okay? So let's go ahead.
All right, what do we got?
Just came in. Heart attack. 5'9", 300 pounds, 32 years old.
How the hell does that happen?
Can I get a, Could be developing diabetes. We have to exchange. Oh, yeah.
You're graduating! Watch TV. You wouldn't even have to leave.
You can't do this.
Yes, can I get a...
Yeah, no, deep dish.
You have to make a change. Good job, Jim. You got an A+.
There are your fries, sweetie. You go.
I still can't believe you give this child French fries.
I know, but it's the only thing that'll make him stop.
Okay, that's really weird. Okay, so that took a really, really weird turn. So I don't understand what I will say first and foremost that has really frustrated me about the conversation about obesity as of late, and especially I've been seeing it a lot, is people will do absolutely anything to take accountability away from the person who's overweight. There is such a narrative in mainstream culture in the United States right now that obesity is not your fault, that it's the system's fault. I have people constantly telling me that the system has to change. That's what makes people fat. Now it's your parents' fault that you're fat. You know, it's all these different things. That's your fault. The guy in the commercial is 32 years old. 32. I think that blaming your parents for your weight, it can work up till you get your first job. So when did he get his first job? 16, 17, 18, 19? That's still a hot 12 years that he could have done something about it. So I understand I would not set my kid up for obesity or any of that stuff. But I think that that's kind of it's a little bit ridiculous of a supposition to just completely blame it all on the fact that you're a baby and somebody gave you fries. So that first and foremost is BS. Okay. I do think that you want to set your kids up as good as possible, but it doesn't matter because when that kid that you set up so well, when he's 18, 19, 20, and he has a job, he can just gain a bunch of weight when he's 20. So I don't know what this myth is of no accountability in regard to gaining weight. Now, we're going to watch it again. There are some interesting things that are alluded to in this ad. I guess I shouldn't be surprised that I didn't like it. I didn't really like the ad. I don't know if it's going to help anything. It's one of those things where it's like a drop in the bucket. It's not going to change anything. All it does all it would likely do to most fat people is just trigger them. And then that's basically all I think it would do, because there's a lot of BED coded stuff in this. So let's go ahead and watch it again. And so we're going to look at it and break it down piece by piece, okay? Okay. So he has a heart attack. And it's showing from his perspective. So as somebody who has been totally fat, scarringly fat for many, many years, I've had plenty of times in my life where I have been out of breath. You know, even very recently, even with doing things, trying to take care of my hypothyroidism, my supermorbid obesity, even at this point, I still have hypoventilation in regards to obesity. It's obesity-induced hypoventilation. And basically the only thing I can do is lose weight to get rid of it. There's really no other way. They have like a CPAP you can get and that kind of stuff. But in regard to the actual episodes that I have, it's usually in the day. It comes from things like high leptin. It comes from physical obstruction of the belly. It comes from a lot of different things to where all I can really do is lose weight. And it's horrible. It's a horrible feeling. It feels awful to be short of breath. It's awful. So I can relate to that. So that's real enough, you know. So the heart attack thing too. A lot of people that have BED, they're very, very scared. So actually, like, honestly, the combination of the two. So like hypothyroidism, and when it gets really extreme, it can lead to hypochondria because people a lot of times have no idea what's wrong with them. And hypothyroidism, it comes out in so many different ways in the body that it can make you feel like you're dying. And part of it is it makes you incredibly anxious in general. So just anxiety in general. And one of the easiest things to have anxiety about is your body. So again, all this would do to somebody who is super hypo or who has BED is just going to trigger the fear response, which again, I have been thinking a lot about the difference between food addiction and BED, and oftentimes methods that could be useful for food addiction are not useful for BED because triggering fear response, that fear and that anxiety caused by that kind of ad is going to lead somebody to just binge. That's ultimately what it will do if they are in a BED. So, like I said, it's going to scare somebody. And what that will lead to in a lot of typical, very obese people who have BED is I need to do a radical diet tomorrow. So I'm going to binge tonight so I can do a radical diet tomorrow. That's the psychology of it. So this is not helpful. So let's continue.
All right, what do we got?
Just came in. Heart attack. 5'9", 300 pounds, 32 years old.
So 32 years old. That's supposed to be like, oh my gosh, he's so young, da 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 da. Which yes, he is. You know, so that's scary for sure. I've talked a lot about on my channel how I don't even think I would have made it this far if I hadn't figured it out. So yeah, that part is real. It can hit you very young, especially as a man. It really can. So that part's real.
How the hell does that happen?
So yeah, I don't know if he's having the hypoventilation episodes, but they're showing what he's eating. I guess what made this ad really interesting to people is that it's in first person, which is kind of interesting. But showing that he's struggling with breathing or all these things.
Can I get a, Could be developing diabetes.
Showing warnings from the doctor. So it's kind of like those kind of stereotypical things, which can be true. Again, they're not always untrue, but what I would have appreciated if this were to be made, if I would have made this, I would have showed possible triggers before eating, possible things that show like the cyclical nature. I would have showed dieting attempts That would have been more realistic. I would have showed, I'm going to do this diet today, blah, blah, blah. Are you sure you're going to stick to that? Or you keep changing your diet? That would be needed to be inserted in there, because there is this impression that's given in this ad that people don't ever try. And that's not true. Okay, let's continue.
You have to make a change.
Okay. So it's showing he's not exercising. This is also demonizing sugar, which I don't agree with. Personally, I don't.
You're graduating.
So it's showing the eating. I would have shown a lot of eating. So that's the other thing too. If you're going to do this, then you got to do it right. So if you want to have this typical BED experience, then what you need to do is have him eat a lot. So there needs to be a lot more food than a freaking sandwich. Yes, it's a big sandwich, but it's more than that. It will take more than a big sandwich to get that big for that long. Just saying. I know that people don't want to hear that. Again, there's this weird taboo in America where people do not want to acknowledge how much very big people are actually eating. But it's a lot more than the sandwich. It's a lot more than 1 can of soda. Okay, it's a lot more. I need to see some 2-liter bottles being thrown down. I need to see a full pack of soda being thrown down. I need to see 3 bags of chips, a whole pie going down with something. I mean, if we want to really do it, that's what it's going to take, sweetie. It takes a lot. So it's also kind of giving this impression of like, he just was naturally eating and just eating what he felt like was right. And he just got really big for some reason. It must be because of what he was fed as a kid.
Watch TV. You won't even have to leave.
So those things are real. The whole like, I'm going to get you the treadmill. Like that was realistic. I was like, okay, totally realistic. Okay, showing that he's 15, he's 13. Showing that he's having the syrup. Okay, that was realistic. He probably wouldn't be as, like, you're usually smaller the younger you are. So that kind of stuff with that syrup on there and all that, I feel like that's realistic.
You can't do this.
So this right here, I'm guessing that he's hiding food. This is alluding to BED. So this is a situation where, again, I don't know if we are getting a complete, picture, or if there's somebody that has an understanding of this that's making this ad, but that does reflect kind of badly on the parents on that level. Because if you're seeing ED behavior in your teenager, then it is your responsibility as a parent to try to fix that. So that really would be probably a better place to show it, because that's him hiding food, basically. Yeah, so hiding the food.
Yes, can I get a...
Yeah, no, deep dish.
And showing that the parents are getting the food, which is real. That's realistic.
You have to make a change.
Okay, now the doctors are telling the parents. Now, the other thing that I don't think is realistic is I don't think in this type of situation, it would be really hard for me to believe that the mom is going to be normal weight or somewhat normal weight. Usually the parents are also very obese. That could just be something that I'm projecting on there, but that's typically what it would be in my opinion. So this is very much leaning heavily on it's all the parents' fault, because it gives the impression that the parents didn't have any issue and they just put that on the kid, which is weird to me. Because again, in my opinion, the whole thing is it's not your fault that you're fat. It's your parents' fault, which is stupid. Okay, 8 years old. Okay, playing video games, not that active. Okay, so he's struggling with playing even at 8. That's rough.
Good job, Jim.
So I think if he was that big at 8 years old, he probably would have been like really huge. I mean, you have to think about it too realistically. If you are so big that you can't even like walk around or play at 8 years old, then by the time you're in your 30s, you're probably like really, really, really big. Like you would probably be at a level where you can't even walk. So you probably would not have a relationship, a kid and all that. Like in my opinion, that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm being stereotypical, but I feel like this ad is too. And it's giving weird signals here. Like I said, it's just weird. It's not realistic. And like I said, I'm somebody who I was chubby by the time I was like 7 or 8, but I could still play. I could still do things. I mean, it doesn't hit you that fast, in my opinion. But let's continue.
You got an A+.
Okay, so they're blaming the school, the snacks at the school. Okay.
Here are your fries, sweetie.
Okay. Okay.
I still can't believe you give this child freckles.
I know, but it's the only thing that'll make him stop.
Okay. So, what I will say is, I do think it's important what you're giving your kid, but what I will not say is your entire future is based upon that. I just think that that's way too much because, again, there are plenty of people who were brought up to be raised to eat well or, better than that, and they still get huge. So, again, it's still going to be your responsibility, especially as an adult, especially as a 32-year-old. It's your responsibility. So I'm not, what in the millennial cringe is going on here? That's what bothers me. Because there is this trope in millennials where it's like, oh gosh, my parents messed me up and therefore everything I do shitty and terrible in my life is because of my parents. And it's just like that excuse gets really, really old after 25, after 22. It low-key gets old. After 25, it's ancient. After 30, you're a joke. At that point, it's like, honey, get the fuck over yourself. Like, whew. Anyways, and I'm not saying like, I don't know, if your parents like horrifically abused you and you were like kidnapped and thrown somewhere or locked in a dungeon for 6 months in your childhood or something, I get it, right? But if we're talking about something like obesity, if we're talking about something like any kind of addiction, it's like, I don't know. Like, when do we blame ourselves for our behavior? When do we blame ourselves for our eating disorder? At a certain point? Or when do we, not that we blame ourselves that we have it, but we blame ourselves that we don't do anything about it. Because oftentimes with EDs, they're passed from parent to kid. It can be passed on. So it's like, it's just not, if nobody takes responsibility, then it will never end. It'll never end. It just keeps going and going and going. So I actually don't really like this ad, just because I don't like the shifting of blame and I don't like the undermining of the actual issue. So they're not showing him eat as much as he probably would have been eating. They're showing that he was too big to even go on the playground at 8 years old, but then he can still work a full-time job and do everything and have a kid and a wife in his 30s. It's like a lot of people who aren't even fat don't have that. But it's like you couldn't even play on a playground at 8 years old. Like, it's just not making sense. So to me, I would say like it's a good try, I guess. We can look at some of the comments. Because to me, this is very much like somebody who was never fat made this ad. And they think they know how it works. That's how it sounds to me. And this is like part of the issue I have with how obesity is talked about. Is that it's a lot of people who don't have any experience with it. And who don't know what they're talking about. They don't know how it actually happens. And I would have liked to see doctor's visits where they misdiagnosed them or they missed diagnoses. I would have liked to see diet attempts, multiple different diet attempts. I would have liked to have seen a lot of different things. And if we're going with the BED narrative here with the hiding of the food, then that would have been a part of it too, is the dieting cycles. So it's not accurate either, because ultimately you got to figure out why the person is obese. And you need to figure it out yourself as a 32-year-old, as a 25-year-old, as a 20-year-old, as an 18-year-old. As an 18-year-old, you're an adult. You can decide what you eat at 18. So you have to figure it out. It's your responsibility. Maybe you weren't set up right. Maybe you were set up right. It doesn't matter. You can still gain weight at 18. You can still lose weight at 18. So I just think it's too reductive. I don't like the ad, honestly. I'm kind of surprised I didn't. I thought I would, but the message was just so weird how they always try to take blame. Okay, let's see. So I guess Reddit loves it, of course. Because let's see. My mom and grandma used to feed me fat and sugary stuff too when I was a child. Staying in relatively healthy weight is difficult if you were taught that anything below 5,000 calories a day is starvation. So this comment got tons of likes. What I would like to know is, how big are you now? How old are you now? How long have you stayed that big? That's what I'd like to know. Because if you're going to make the comment now, then you must know that this is wrong now, right? So why aren't you changing? Or why don't you make a different choice then? It's irritating. Let's see. There was another lad in the same ward who was getting the same operation. He was told it would be a 50-50 whether he'd survive. His family all came in to say their goodbyes before he went in. I put on a few pounds in the last few years, and it really made me think that I need to get back into a healthy BMI range, do more exercise, and eat a bit more healthy, as I didn't fancy being in a similar situation of my own making, having to say goodbye to my family for a routine operation. Yeah. That's a good comment. I mean, you can definitely learn from other people's experiences, which I think is important in this space, and that's also what I try to do. I try. I have a lot of vices. I'm glad food and alcohol is not one of them. Okay. Why these are not YouTube ads targeted to eating or developing healthy habits. So like I said, I don't think that this would have any impact. I can say pretty much on somebody that has binge eating disorder, this ad would have absolutely no impact, because it would tell that person, well, my parents messed it up for me, so this is just how I am. That's what it would say. It's horrible. I don't agree with it. I just don't. I don't think it's helpful. And like I said, it would just scare somebody, and it's much more likely to lead somebody to binge. It could be more of a trigger. People have BED because of other traumas, other serious traumas. It doesn't just happen. It's not like you just decide one day to have it because it's fun. It's not. Newsflash, it isn't. So, like I said, if you're going with like a food addiction thing, that would be a different narrative. It probably would be the whole family doing it, not hiding it at all, right? It wouldn't be like that. So, I don't know. It's just not giving to me, in my opinion. Not liking it. Okay, one of the worst things parents can do is force their kids to finish their meals when they already feel full. The brain decides when you're full based on the amount of leptin hormone that your adipose tissues send, but if you overeat, even more leptin gets sent and the brain becomes accustomed to that amount of leptin, and the next time that you eat a meal, you have to overeat in order to feel full. So I'm not sure. Like I said, I really think it's too reductive. So I'm not saying that this comment is wrong. I'm not saying that this, is a good thing to do. But what I am saying is that this alone is not going to cause somebody to be super morbidly obese and have a heart attack at 32. It's just not. It's a lot more multifaceted of an issue. There's a lot of steps to getting to that point. A lot of steps. A lot of times, failures at the doctor, if we're going to keep it real, too. Like I said, I want to see the part where my hypothyroidism was totally missed at the doctor. I want to see the part where I was told horrible advice for how to get rid of my fatty liver at 9 or 10, where they told me a completely unreasonable diet where I was starving and it was not sustainable. So I didn't do it. I didn't try at all. I want to see the part where, like I said, he was trying different diets, where he's gaining and losing 100 pounds, where he's gaining and losing 40 pounds, at a time. Something. Wow, you're doing great. Oh gosh, you fell off. Wow, you're doing great. Oh gosh, you fell off. Like I said, you need to pick a narrative and actually do it. But people don't even recognize that at all because this person that made this commercial has never even had the ED and doesn't know what they're talking about. Gosh. Well, to be honest, I am fat, not proud of it, and this absolutely scared me. Yes. And what are the odds that you went and ate after? That's my thing. That's my thing. Then here somebody said, I was literally taught that caring about healthy food was leftist. I don't know. I was taught that being fat activist is leftist. So I guess we're taught different things, aren't we? Boom. What adults are feeding / allowing children to have is straight up abuse and causing a harder and shorter life. It depends on the situation. I think it's a little bit too black and white of a statement. But again, your diet is an amalgamation of everything you eat, right? So in isolation, no one thing is that way, but the entire picture can be that way. But again, usually parents are suffering through their own things too. So it's like a cycle. It's just not simple. That's what makes it hard. It makes it very hard. I think the rest of the comments are kind of whatever. Let's see. This ad isn't about fat shaming. It's about childhood obesity prevention. It's also just shaming the person. Some people are just disgusted by fat people. At the same time, if you do truly care about the person, shame and systemic shaming are shown to be one of the worst motivators for life changes. While humans aren't all the same, it may work for some people. Mainly people deny, ignore, or try to escape from feelings of shame and what causes them through unhealthy coping mechanisms. So this, I don't completely agree with it either. It's difficult. It's a difficult balance. I think what you need to do is just provide reality. You can provide reality checks for people. Like that's what I always say. One of the best things that one of my best friends did for me in 2022 was buy me a plane ticket. So I had to fly. And I was on the fence about counting calories before I flew. And I came back from that trip and I was like, oh my God, I'm counting. Because I was on the fence. But then that reality check of being on the plane, being that fat and all that stuff and how awful it was like, okay. Because, that kind of stuff is what helps. If my friends would have been like, oh my gosh, you're so crazy. What is wrong with you? You're not counting calories. You're not doing this, that's a whole other thing. Now, if your fat friend or if a fat person in your life is complaining constantly about their weight, then just say, well, you can count your calories. That's what it takes. And then they're going to be all pissed about it or whatever. But that's the kind of stuff that you can do. If somebody's asking a question, they're more likely to hear the answer. But this type of ad, I don't think that this ad works. I also don't think it was shaming them. I think it was shaming the parents and completely blaming the parents, which I don't agree with either. Like I said, BED is a cycle. It's cyclical. It's a compulsion. It's like an OCD type of thing. So it's like, it's just somebody that over many, many, many years never addressed the issue. The issues, the underpinning anxieties, the trauma that led to that trauma response. They never addressed it. And so then they get to that point, and that's how you get there. So I always advocate on this channel, if you are in that situation where you do have BED, you need to get to the root of it and you have to fight the disorder. You cannot just passively get over it. That's not typically how it works. You have to usually change things structurally in your life. You have to learn how to set proper boundaries with other people and yourself. And you have to deal with the anxiety and deal with the feelings without it. And then it's over. It takes time. Depending on how severe it is, it can take a long time. But that's what it is. Now let's see this one. Got to love how people will find any excuse to bully someone, kind of twisted to say it's to help them though. Please be more thorough on your research on what the effects of body shaming of obese people does. It genuinely just makes people worse off. Remember, eating is an emotional comfort, and body shaming someone who are addicted to food will only encourage them to continue that bad habit. It's not the wake-up call you think it is, and there is no evidence that suggests that it works. This is a little bit better of a comment. It's just difficult with this because it depends. Are they addicted to the food? What I always tell you guys, or what I'm going to start telling you guys is it about the food or is it about your body? That's a big question. Is it about the food or is it about you? If it's about your body, if it's about you as a person and self-hatred, then it is probably an ED. If it's about the actual food, then it could be that an addiction. If it has to do with specific foods and all that, then yeah. And I don't know, I don't have experience with that aspect. So if you guys have had that, please let me know what helped you in the comments below, because I don't know how to help somebody that has that. And that's just because I don't have tons and tons of fat friends in my life. I do have some, but they're not in this category. I don't have any, I haven't had any friends that were straight up addicted to food and just ate just to eat or just because of the food itself so much. I haven't known anybody like that because in my family, as I said, it's that wonderful hereditary kind of ED thing going on. So pretty much, kind of goes down the family line. Okay? Kind of scarring, but it's more of the VEG side. Which, like I said, it's a lot of dieting. It's a lot of Weight Watchers attempts. It's a lot of that. Okay? So I didn't see no trip to Weight Watchers in this commercial. Where was that? That was missing. That was missing. Anyways, I think I'll leave it at that, you guys. Thank you so much. I have a feeling this might make some of you guys mad, but that's okay. I do feel like the messaging around obesity, it has got to change. To clarify one last time, I do think it matters what you feed your kids. I do think you shouldn't feed your kids processed food and all that stuff. I totally agree with that. But just because you were fed processed foods as a child doesn't mean that you have to be super morbidly obese and have a heart attack at 32. It doesn't mean that you don't have any accountability in that. It doesn't mean that either. Two things can be bad at the same time. Being raised on crappy food as a child can be bad for you, and then perpetuating it into adulthood yourself can also be bad. So again, we need to put responsibility back onto people. People are really, really averse to it. And let me know what you guys think about why people hate fat people taking responsibility for the fact that they're fat in America. I'm really curious your guys' thoughts. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good rest of your day, night, whatever. Peace.